Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. This is a brand new What If. What if Deku had a dark summoner Quirk? And as always, please show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And I want to say this right off the bat before we get into the video and before we get into, a couple other things I want to chat about really quick. I do have full intentions of doing other animes. Honestly, just with the schedule I have right now, it's been a little bit difficult to figure out how I want to do it. If I want to do it, do I want to do some Naruto stuff? Do I want to go back and do some Demon Slayer stuff? And all of the above. It's been pretty damn difficult to figure it all out. But I do have full intentions of doing more. Honestly, part of me wants to go back and do some Shield Hero stuff. So that might just happen as well. I gotta rewatch some Shield Hero episodes because I don't remember everything that happened in that anime, at least not perfectly, but still, I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I don't want to waste much more of your time. Make sure to check the links in the description for the Spotify, the Discord, and all these other things as well, and that's all I gotta say, and I hope you guys enjoy. So let's get right into it. Let's get it. Izuku Midoriya, he is born into a world full of quirks or superpowers, and these quirks vary massively, but his quirk, well, it would be so much different than anyone could have possibly imagined. A quirk that would allow him to summon things that many people would see to be terrifying. And when he is only 4 years old, out of nowhere, unfortunately, he would lose a pet that he enjoyed being around so much. His little dog. A dog that would pass on to the next life of old age, and Izuku would be holding it and crying over the fact that his puppy, or his dog, not really his puppy because it is an older dog, but still his puppy, is now gone. And as, well, the puppy would pass on, Izuku could feel something within his hands and feel something that would surround him, this darkness, this weird feeling, and eventually when the dog would be gone, when they would put him in the ground, they would give him a nice little send-off. Izuku can feel powers coming from underneath the ground, and this would be his first dark summon. A dog, a literal dog. A dog that is of dark shadows would arise, no pun intended, from the ground. And as this puppy would come to life, or basically come through the darkness and be one with the world once again, from the shadows it would arise, and Izuku Midoriya would be in shock, and he would go running inside with the dog. He would immediately tell his mother, and his mother would freak out initially, thinking that this is insane. Not like, what's happening? This is terrifying. And Izuku says, no, it's fine. Like the dog. I mean, it's safe. It's fine. It's it's just the normal dog that we normally had. In which she asks, like, is it the same dog, the same name, same everything? In which he says, like, you know what? How about this? We'll call him Shadow. In which Izuku calls the dog Shadow, and the dog would basically be with him at all times. Now, the dog can disappear and reappear whenever he wants, so when he goes to school, the dog would just disappear, and when he leaves, or he wants him to, show up, he would reappear as well. And Izuku would continue, showing the dog off, but also continue with kind of learning what this dog can do, and on top of that, what potential his quirk truly has, because when he goes and he gets tested at a doctor's or at a doctor's place, or basically gets tested for his quirk, they would explain to him that it seems he has an innate ability to actually summon kind of the dead. Now, it's a little bit more than just that. It's a little more confusing than just that. But overall, he can summon kind of these dark-like figures. Now, we don't know what that means or what the reality of it is, and we don't really know what the restrictions are, right? We don't know if there's a limit to how many he can summon. We don't know if there's a limit to what he can do, but Izuku, well, he'll find out all of that very, very soon as he grows up and he starts training and learning more about his quirk. And Izuku, well, he realizes that is 100% the truth, because he starts basically feeling odd almost every single day, as if he walks around and even sees these people that are not alive, but they're walking around him, basically looking at him, talking to him. But Izuku, well, he doesn't know what's real and what's not to an extent. He doesn't know if they're dead, if they're not dead, or anything along those lines. But overall, he feels like he could really do some good with people or with anything that could, potentially be used for the greater good in general. But Izuku, well, he sticks to his single dog, Shadow. And, well, Shadow continues to impress as Izuku basically tests out his powers. Throughout the years, he tests out his powers, what Shadow's capable of, what he can do, and he sees that Shadow is not only insanely fast, but he's insanely strong, being able to break over entire trees and bite through trees in one foul swoop. It's pretty damn insane. And he wonders that this might be his way to be a hero. This might be his way to be the hero he seeks out to be so heavily. And yes, that would be the case. Izuku Midoriya would be preparing for his eventual arrival in terms of becoming a hero or being a hero student at UA High School. But there's a lot to prepare for. There's a lot to do. And, well, a lot of those things that he has to do is train, prepare, study, all of these things, all the way up until close to the end of middle school, where his teacher would be talking to them about how, yeah, I know a lot of you would just want to be heroes and blah, blah, blah. And that's exactly what Izuku wants to do. And Bakugo, well, he would make fun of him, saying that, what is he going to do? I mean, seriously, how is he going to be a hero if he just has this small, shadowy dog? What is that going to do for him? In which Izuku hears this and thinks, he's right. What is it going to do for him? One small dog? I mean, that's it? I mean, what else is he going to do? How can he be better? What can he do to make himself better? In which he doesn't know the answer to that. He has no idea the answer to that question, but he knows that he has to work hard, train hard, and prepare himself better than he's ever prepared himself before. So he would leave the school wondering that day, walking under a bridge, thinking to himself, what does he have to do? What can he do? What are the possibilities here? I mean, seriously, is there anything he can possibly do to actually get himself, to the point where he has the potential to basically be the hero he knows he can be? And, well, he doesn't know necessarily what to do and what to follow, but as he's thinking about these things, he's eventually and immediately kind of confronted by the Sludge villain. The Sludge villain begins attacking them all. The Sludge villain begins to attack attack him in general and tries to take his body, saying that he's trying to take his body basically to run away from somebody. And he wonders, who's he running away from? What's happening? He doesn't know what's going on, but all he knows is whatever this creature is, it's trying to grab him, kill him, or take him over. And he refuses to let that happen. He summons his dog, and his dog begins to attack him, attack the creature, or attack the Sludge villain. And it seems like it's working to a certain extent. The dog is like taking chunks out of the Sludge villain, taking it down, and trying to give Izuku time to get out of there. But the dog seems to be losing to a certain extent, and Izuku continues running away. And as he gets far enough, he tells Shadow to go away, to hide. And as Shadow would jump back into the ground, hiding away, Izuku would be far enough away from the Sludge villain, and luckily enough, because a giant punch, a Detroit smash, would immediately smash the Sludge villain into little pieces, sending him flying everywhere. And Izuku would be in shock to see that it's All Might. All Might himself has arrived, and All Might is now allowing him and basically here to basically save the day. And Izuku asks him, what's going on? What was that thing? And blah, blah, blah. In which he basically tells the kid, everything's all right. I mean, it was no problem. He took him down, and he just needs help cleaning this thing up. So he helps clean up the area, clean up the Sludge villain, and they put him in bottles. And basically, Izuku asks, like, is the Sludge villain, is he dead? In which All Might says, oh, no. Sludge villain is very, very durable, it seems. And it seems like he just lives through basically everything. So no, it's not dead. In which Izuku is like, oh, okay, that's good. In which he asks Izuku, like, how was he able to get away? In which Izuku shows his shadow dog, or shows Shadow, and basically shows All Might the dog, and basically says, like, oh, it was because my dog was able to fend it off for a little bit and he was able to run away. In which All Might thinks, whoa, that's a pretty interesting kind of thing, a pretty interesting kind of quirk you have there. In which Izuku says, yeah, it's like a summoning type of quirk. He doesn't really know too much about it and doesn't know a ton more than just this, but it's definitely something. In which All Might tells him, like, look, you have all the potential in the world, then if you're just scraping the surface and scratching the surface of what you can possibly do. So just be prepared for anything that comes your way. In which eventually All Might would jump off and Izuku would be embedded with just a new kind of sense of, like, whoa, you know what? Like, this right here is something that I'm going to be prepared for. So he takes the 10 months that are up and coming all the way up until the UA entrance exam to prepare himself, prepare Shadow and himself. They train together, they work hard together, every last bit, they do everything. And he tries to just get every last aspect he possibly can of his powers to arise to the surface, but frankly, it's just not enough. He doesn't understand everything, he doesn't know what's going on, and eventually though, he would figure something out. Because you'd be training with Shadow, and he would wonder, how would you protect him, or how would Shadow protect him if he wasn't, like, if he wasn't able to actually defeat the villain that was in front of him? Maybe him and Shadow can combine in some sort of way. Shadow being able to embed himself on top of Izuku like some sort of wolf-like armor or some sort of like dog-like armor. He doesn't know. Like, that's kind of insane to think about, but he does see Shadow getting stronger day in and day out. Normally he is like a dog, and he goes more into like a wolf-like creature. And he gets bigger and bigger practically every day with every training session, every movement, and every single aspect that they work on. In which eventually they do realize something, or Izuku does realize something, that they're able to actually, and Izuku's able to actually embed himself within Shadow. And as he does this, he basically combines with Shadow, creating some sort of wolf-like armor in a way, and like the wolf-like, kind of lichen-like creature, and he can embed those powers within himself and take on that persona. But as he does this, it seems like his ability to control this power is very minimal. So he's unable to really bring it to attention the way he wants to. Even over 10 months, he's unable to really secure how to utilize the power. But nonetheless, it's something that he'll work on throughout time, and something he'll continue to work on. But for now, he has a literal wolf by his side, a shadow wolf that can help him with literally anything. But what he didn't know is that eventually, when he gets in or tries out for his UA entrance exam, this would be more than you can imagine, because he would immediately start out with, how is he going to do this, right? How is he going to do this? And his first thought, obviously, after doing the original portion, where it's the written portion of the exam and stuff like that, his next thought is, how does he destroy these robots? How is he going to destroy these metal robots? Which he hopes that Shadow is going to be strong enough to do so. Yes, he was able to break down trees and stuff like that, and yes, he's grown in strength, but he doesn't know. He doesn't know as a guarantee. He doesn't know for sure if he's going to be able to do it. So he's coming into this hoping for the best. And as those gates would swing open, as his shadowy wolf would show up, and as it would go out there, absolutely mutilating robot after robot, he would feel calmer and calmer, realizing that Shadow and him are going to get into UA. And he believes it to be an absolute. And he continues to destroy robot after robot, and he watches as all these robots are destroyed. All of these robots are being just pelted and bullied and obliterated, and he watches as his wolf does all the work for him, and he tries to help out. He even tries to, grab a piece of a robot and destroy it, but Shadow would run over and then basically scratch it and destroy it almost instantly, and Izuku would look at him and think, thank you thank you for that, I appreciate it. In which Shadow basically walks over and stands right beside him and runs with Izuku as they try their best to destroy robot after robot. He's not trying to make Izuku feel useless or anything like that, but that is his quirk, an ability to summon. Now, combining with his summon, aka the wolf, is something they worked on, but not something they perfected, and he wouldn't want to, put themselves in an awkward situation where it becomes, not beneficial in the slightest while utilizing this quirk. And Izuku, well, yes, he would pass the UA entrance exam. He would pass it very, very easily, getting a pretty damn high score, even being able to save a girl from the giant 0-point robot. But even after doing all of that, yes, he doesn't get the first place of the exam, or he doesn't get, number 1 in UA, but he does get into and enter Class 1A, and he's excited to see what's going to happen, and he's excited to see what he truly can do. But his first day isn't what he's going to expect it to be, because the first day is going to be a quirk assessment to see what you're capable of, and they're going to do some normal, I wouldn't say training exercises, but normal kind of assessment exercises of someone who would be, of a normal body. You would see how far you can throw a ball, see how fast you can run, see how fast you can do this or do that. And Izuku, well, he does find this to be a bit awkward, and especially because he watches Katsuki Bakugo, someone who has bullied him, messed with him, and told him that he was not good enough for so long and so many times. He basically is unsure of himself to an extent, and he wonders what's going to happen if Bakugo basically, or how is Bakugo going to react if he basically doesn't show off his best and doesn't do his best. In which Izuku, well, he's, thinking about a lot of different things, but luckily Shadow would show up and kind of calm him down a little bit and basically show him like everything's going to be all right. And Izuku would throw the ball as far as possible, but he would throw it kind of like a, not very far, right? He wouldn't throw it very far. Now, everybody would think, oh, this is going to be so fun. It's going to be so awesome. The quirk assessment, blah, blah, blah. But Aizawa, he's not thinking that way. And he tells them that they shouldn't be thinking that way. So he tells them all, whoever gets last place will be expelled. But last place isn't going to Izuku. Because when they have the speed test and they have, like your side set, your strength test, Izuku is able to either ride on his actual shadow wolf or kind of, dark summoned wolf. And he's able to kind of show off that speed and the capabilities of his wolf-like companion. And everybody's thinking like, whoa, that's pretty damn awesome. And yes, he doesn't get number 1 in this exam or this quirk assessment, but he shows to everybody that he is no joke, and that his quirk, I mean, it's pretty damn impressive and doesn't have the same kind of backdraws or kind of the same drawbacks, excuse me, I don't know why I said it like that, the same drawbacks as someone like Tokiyami, but still can show off the power that he or his shadow is truly capable of. And after it all said and done, Aizawa, reveals that it was some sort of a hoax, but also reveals that they have a lot to work on and a lot to do in the long run. And this would lead to Izuku not actually being able to leave immediately, being confronted by Tokiyami. He asks him a bunch of questions about his shadow, about this, about that, in which Izuku basically tells him what occurred, in which he asks him, is he some sort of like necromancer then? In which Izuku says, well, he never really thought of it like that, but maybe? He doesn't know. But he tells him that he can feel the aura and power exuding from his dark shadow, and he can tell that his power is beyond belief, far greater than what most would even believe, but it's being hindered by the lights, hindered by the outside world, in which Izuku wonders, what kind of power does he truly have, What kind of power does he truly have when undeterred by the light, in which, of course, Tokiyami tells him that that's not something they would want to test because last time it happened, he went a little bit buck wild and he destroyed quite a bit. In which Izuku nods his head and thinks, you know what, that makes sense, and he understands. And Izuku tells him that it's a really awesome quirk, and he hopes that he continues growing in strength as well, and he wishes that he hopes the same to him. In which Tokiyami nods his head and says, yeah, he wishes the same for him as well, and Izuku would then leave and prepare for whatever's to come next at UA High School, which would be your heroes versus villains training. And this is Izuku's chance to really show off his powers, what he can do, what he's capable of, and really all of the above. So when Izuku, well, goes up there to face off with Bakugo and face off with Tenya Ida with Ochako Uraka by his side, Izuku's excited to see what he can really do and excited to see what he's truly capable of, because when he lets out Shadow, his kind of dark summoned wolf, he begins to try to assess the situation. Being that he is the heroes, or him and Ochako are the heroes here, the idea is to find the bomb, stop or touch the bomb, and well, you know, win in that way. And they decide that, well, the best way to approach this is to actually have basically Shadow look for where the bomb currently is. And it's a pretty easy thing for Shadow to do. Shadow finds the bomb pretty damn quickly, and they find some sort of attack where they go through the door, they cut off Bakugo, and Shadow would jump on Bakugo and almost instantly just overwhelm him and knock him out. And Izuku and Ochako would go running through to find where Tenya Ida is. And as well, they're gone and in the wind basically, they immediately would resummon Shadow, and Shadow would attack. Shadow would attack Tenya and kind of leave an opening. Leave an opening for them to actually do something here, and leave an opening for them to actually get the touch of the bomb, so that they can then go on and win the kind of situation, or kind of win the training session, in which that's exactly what happens. Izuku, Midoriya, and Ochako, being as efficient as they are, defeat Bakugo and Tenya Ida, and they leave off right then and right there. Finishing the training session and defeating both of them would lead them to watching the rest of the students and watching the rest of them, do the normal things that they have to do the normal heroes versus villains training. And Izuku and Ochako kind of watch along, and Izuku wonders if there's anything else he really could have done better during that scenario. And he really thinks about this throughout the night, because he thinks that he could have done so much more if he just somehow perfected this kind of power that he's been wanting to perfect. The power that would infuse him and also also Shadow with a power together, and be able to channel a different powers of the shadows, powers of the darkness, but he doesn't know exactly how to do it. He doesn't know yet. He doesn't know how to perfect it, and he still doesn't know how to really approach it. He needs to figure out a way to do this, though, so that they can continue benefiting from the power that they gain and the power that they have been showing off. But Izuku wouldn't know that the next time they have a bit of a training session, quote unquote, would be the time that he would actually be able to see things that he would not understand in the smallest, or even at all. He would actually run into a situation where they go to the USJ. And yes, this is a rescue facility, a good place for them to train and yada yada yada. But this is where things change massively, because Izuku stands there as portals would open, and he would see two very, very odd things that would make him question heavily what's going on, because what's happening is Izuku is seeing the shadows and or the people that are behind not only the Nomu, but also Kirogiri. He doesn't know what the hell is going on. He doesn't know what is happening, but he sees it. It's as if these people, Kirogiri and the Nomu, are already dead. He doesn't know how to explain it, what's happening and what's even going on, but he's realizing quickly that something happened, that something is going on, and that something that they didn't realize is currently occurring. And well, that right there is the case. He realizes pretty quickly that these two right here are actually, well, passed on. These two right here are actually being kind of controlled in a weird way, because they aren't actually living, they aren't actually necessarily alive, and it seems very, very interesting. Izuku, before he could really react, would kind of get sent off to a different place, sent off into a lake of some sorts, where Asui would save him and drag him out of the water, and he would immediately summon his wolf or summon Shadow. And as he does, Shadow is able to basically jump them all the way across the water to safety. But Izuku still wants to know more about what these two creatures are and what is currently happening. Because these creatures, or these people, are dead. But how? How are they standing? How are they continuing moving? How are they speaking? Or, well, one of them speaking, but how does any of this even make sense? But then he realizes this is something that they came up with. Maybe it's some sort of scientific thing that they did. Maybe it's a science kind of experiment that they ensued, and it seems odd to think about. But he thinks that has to be the only answer. That has to be the answer to what they are talking about. Has to be the answer to what's going on. And that right there is 100% the case, because Izuku begins to feel the shadows, begins to understand them, and begins to really, really, really seek out what's going on. Sending Shadow out there to help Aizawa, as Aizawa takes on many different villains, and Aizawa does his best to fend off the other villains and or defeat them. And this would lead to Izuku helping out well with his summon, right? He would help out with his summon, and Izuku would look for openings to try to do something, and eventually he realizes that he can take over and control, to an extent, the two people there, Kirogiri and the Nomu, as he sends out Shadow to defeat a ton of the villains. And as Shadow does just that, he would then basically start messing with Kirogiri and the Nomu, making it so they're no longer actually even doing anything. They're no longer even really moving or interacting. Izuku messing with the mind of both of them, seeing that the Nomu is a lot easier to get intact with, and begins to actually control the Nomu. The Nomu would then start changing. Instead of being the normal Nomu he would be shrouded in shadows, in darkness, as the darkness would cover all over him, and he would become some sort of shadow-like Nomu. And Izuku would be standing there, and he would realize quickly that the tides have turned drastically, controlling the Nomu and telling him to basically disappear and reappear next to him, and he would do just that. He would tell the Nomu, still calling him Nomu, and telling him to go after the villain right there. The villain with the hands on his face, and the villain that looks like he needs some chapstick. And he would go flying, or jumping at Shigaraki, and he would crack him over the face, knocking Shigaraki out in an instant. Kirogiri, on the other hand, is starting to look for an opening, is about to try to teleport them away, but out of nowhere he can't move anymore, like at all. Izuku is stopping him entirely, holding on to that aspect of him that is no longer of the living. And Izuku is telling him that he doesn't want to do this. He still can be a hero. He has seen into his mind. He has seen into the ideas and the mind and who he was before. He knows that he once was a hero, an aspiring student trying to be a hero, but he died. He passed on. But he can still live on through his shadows. He can still live on through the darkness, in which he tells the guy, and he then calls him something, and this would shock even Aizawa, and he would tell him, "You can still live on, Oboro." In which immediately Aizawa is in shock. What are you talking about? That doesn't make sense. Oboro, I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all. In which Izuku basically is looking at him, and tells him like, look, you can still be a hero. You can still be that hero. In which, of course, Izuku is trying to plead with him while he's trying to, like, keep him under control, and he's trying to loosen the grip, right? He's trying to understand, trying to hear him, trying to basically get him to basically relent here in this regard. And this is just enough time to eventually give them an opportunity to actually get more heroes to eventually arrive. And Izuku holds Kurogiri still, and he tells him those shadows that surround him now, they don't have to be for evil, they could be for good. In which eventually, when Shigaraki gets captured and Kurogiri's about to get captured, shadows would surround him, and he would immediately dissolve into nothingness, and Izuku would be in control entirely of the darkness that is basically a new summon in that of Kurogiri, in which he tells Aizawa and tells everyone that Kurogiri was gone. He was dead. Whoever their friend was, Oboro, and as a conversation would ensue way later on too about Oboro, he would tell them that he was gone, and he apologizes for this. But he could still get some information from Kurogiri, as he would then show Kurogiri and basically make him appear, and he would tell him, or Kurogiri would tell him, in even the slight voice, but a distorted voice of Oboro, telling him everything that they know about the League of Villains, about All for One, about every aspect you can think of. And Izuku, well, he's thinking like, wow, this is pretty crazy that they're using people that are from the dead, using people that are literally dead. In which Izuku thinks about himself and thinks to himself that, well, he's kind of the same. He does the same thing, but does that make him a villain? And it makes him question pretty heavily if it does make him a villain. But even Aizawa would reassure him that he is not a villain. He is a hero. And he is someone and someone that is giving these people that are passed on a chance to reconcile and a chance to really help out those who are in need. And he can continue doing that over and over again. In which Izuku nods his head and says that he'll only use his powers for good, and he'll make sure that nothing bad comes of this. In which, with all this occurring, let's just say someone is watching. Someone is watching very closely. That is All for One. Wondering, watching, and considering everything that Izuku was doing. I mean, he showed powers that he never thought would be possible, and it seems like Izuku's powers have no limitations. They might even go beyond just those of the dead. Maybe he could create these dark summons without even having people that are of the dead. And these soul-bound kind of minions that he basically can create, connecting them to his shadows. And Izuku, well, he learns not too long from now, even before the UA Sports Festival, that he can create other shadows, but it just takes away from his own personal stamina and stuff like that. But for now, with the 3 shadows that he has, he can summon them whenever he would like, and not have restrictions at any regard. But the UA Sports Festival is going to be an interesting one, because this is when everybody would get to see the powers that Izuku is going to display. The powers of dark summons and the powers of creatures that are from the dead and living within your shadows. Because when Izuku would show off his first summon, his wolf, his shadow, his dark creature known as Shadow, he would hop on top of Shadow's back, and they would ride through the obstacle course race, and everybody would be in shock. What is that? I mean, it's like a shadowy wolf-like creature. It's honestly terrifying. What is he? Is he able to create these monsters? Is he able to summon these dark creatures? This is ridiculous. I mean, how terrifying is that creature? How terrifying looking is that creature truly? And Izuku is not even thinking about this. Izuku doesn't think about how the creatures look, how the creatures are, if they're terrifying, if they're scary, or any of the above. And he just goes. He just does. It's just been a part of his life since he was little, and he doesn't think much about it. But everyone else, they do. They are watching intently at what Izuku does, what he can do, and what he's going to do, especially as a hero, and especially in this this kind of time, because they want to know what is he going to get up to and what is he going to do throughout this UA Sports Festival. And they want to see what he's truly capable of and what he can truly do. And Izuku would finish the obstacle course race in the top 5, not getting number 1, but in the top 5. And this would lead him to still getting or being in a cavalry battle team with Tokiyami, with Ochaku Araka, Mei Hatsume. And honestly, it makes it's very easy for them to actually defend, because Izuku just summons a version of Kurogiri that he still calls Kurogiri. But they would just place portals in the way of different people that would try to attack them, sending them back the other way that they were coming from in the first place. And Izuku, well, he continues to defend his team. And well, he continues to speak with Tokiyami about the powers and what he can truly do in the near future, in which even Tokiyami, after the cavalry battle was all said and done, asks Izuku, is there a way that he can empower him as well? Can he empower Dark Shadow? In which Izuku says that he probably could, but he doesn't know how it would work. He doesn't know if it'll work out to the way he thinks it's going to work out. He has no idea. In which he tells him he doesn't really want anything to go wrong, so they should stray away from doing something along those lines. In which he nods his head. He's like, you know what, I understand, like, completely. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, at the end of the day, you don't want to have anything go too wrong out of nowhere. So you got to make sure everything is, A-okay to a large extent. So at the end of the day, they decide to stray away from that, at least for now. And eventually, the cavalry battle, like I said, would be over, and it's now time for the 1 versus 1s. And this is when Izuku shows off something he's been working on for quite a bit. He would summon his wolf and actually avoid summoning anything else for now. And as he summons it, he would place his hand on the wolf. As he places his hand on his wolf, he would then absorb shadow, as he would turn into some sort of like wolf-like warrior, in a way, a shadow wolf-like warrior that would have the wolf's head on top of his own, and basically create this kind of this person that he has now become. And he now takes on the powers of the wolf and the shadow wolf in his normal state of being, in his normal human state. And everybody watches this and thinks, whoa, this is insane. The things that this kid can do seem to be infinite. It continues to build more and more and more. And it's shocking, truly shocking, the capabilities that the kid is showing, and truly shocking the capabilities that he continues to show the world as he continues to push the boundaries of his shadows. And as he fights his first fight against Shinso, he doesn't even speak a word. Shinso, honestly, so scared to himself that he doesn't even want to say anything himself. And this would lead to, obviously, Izuku winning. And this would lead to, Izuku defeating Shinso in basically one hit. And obviously, this would give Izuku a chance to go on to the very next thing, or the very next time, or the very next fight, and that would be against Shoto Todoroki. He would then do the same thing. He would tell himself that he would have to try and utilize this new form that he has created with Shadow and with Wolf. So that's what he tries to do. Continuously tries to utilize it, absorbing Shadow once again, and now it's time for him to show off. Now it's time for him to face off with Todoroki, and it's pretty damn insane, because when they go head to head, Izuku would tank even blows from his ice powers, but this is not a time for Izuku to try to get him to utilize his fire powers. Even though Izuku would want a better fight, he would look at Todoroki asking him if that's all he really has, but he's not going to talk no jutsu his way into getting Todoroki to utilize his fire powers. He'll have to somehow do that on his own, which Todoroki falls short because he refuses to utilize the quirk that was given by his father, and the quirk that, well, his father basically bestowed upon him, and now he looks at as if it's a curse that he never wants to utilize ever again, which is valid. I mean, he doesn't really like his father, and his father's an absolute asshole, so it does make sense. But still, Izuku just takes on Todoroki, defeating him, and he continues this onslaught of fighting and continues defeating all of his classmates, going from Tenya Ida to even a final battle with Katsuki Bakugo. And this fight, this battle, this one-on-one with Katsuki Bakugo versus Izuku Midoriya is one that everybody is really clamoring for, but Izuku makes it very, very, very obvious that there is no kind of point of contention. There is no beating him, at least not right now. Not in this state, at least not with this power. But before he could really finish the fight, before he could defeat Bakugo, there's something that happens. He would lose control over the wolf, and he would then take a blow from Bakugo, an explosion that would send him spiraling out of off the stage. Izuku would quickly realize that he is at the point where he no longer can hold his wolf form, and this is not good, because Izuku watches as Bakugo takes the upper hand and, well, basically is about to eliminate him. Izuku's flying out of the arena, or flying out of the stage, and as he's about to land, a portal would open up and he would land right back on the stage, and Izuku realizes that a shadow or basically a summon has arrived when he was in danger of losing without even a command, in which that would shock him, and he would realize there's an aspect of Kurogiri that is still within him that allows him to, well, think on his own and kind of think in a different way. Now, this is pretty amazing to look at and pretty amazing to think about, but a Kurogiri allows Izuku to get back in the ring, and Kurogiri, even a shadowy version of him, helps him defeat Bakugo, teleporting Bakugo out of the arena and basically winning him the match, and winning him the ability to call himself the number 1 student in class, or in the first years, or also class 1A, which is pretty damn impressive if I say so myself, because at the end of the sports festival, there's a lot of people clamoring, a lot of people asking, and a lot of people wanting more of Izuku Midoriya, and a lot of people are curious what he can truly do and what he's truly capable of, because Izuku Midoriya's powers, his powers to summon and have dark summons, is something that is shocking, and his dark summons are continuing to improve and also continuing to show off something that many people wouldn't even imagine. And it seems that the potential that the summons, his dark summons, truly have are limitless, truly limitless. But for now, as he gets letter after letter, getting everybody from many different agencies calling his name, wanting him to come over and also train with them, or also kind of work with them to become an even greater hero, Izuku has a lot of different people to choose from for the internships, and a lot of people to really figure out who he should learn from. A lot of choices, a lot of things to be made, and a lot of choices to be made in general. And Izuku Midoriya, he has to make one. He has to make one that could change his future forever. But he has to be careful, because there are people out there, there's a person out there that is seeking out his power and seems to be wanting a chance to have a conversation with Izuku Midoriya. But Izuku Midoriya's choice is pretty simple. A pretty simple one for going to internships. He's just going to go to a high ranker or someone of a high level. And that's what he does. He goes to someone of a high status and a high level. And well, that person would be shocking because that person would actually be Mirako, the rabbit hero, wanting to see more of that wolf-like kind of creation that he was able to make, combining himself with his wolf, making one of the most intense fighting warriors that she has really ever seen, and a training partner that she is dying to fight. So this is probably the best offer for him personally, especially because he wants to work on this form and hopefully master it. But with that said, that is where we're going to end part 1 of 2 of What If Deku Had a Dark Summoner Quirk. And if you enjoyed, please show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.